Welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be the final video for the year 2024. Those of you who don't know where I am, I'm currently in my house. This is my office. My office is the home of my fossil collection, that and my shed. But the prepared fossils are all in my office at the minute. We're about to undergo some major renovation works in the house, and my office and all of my fossil collection will be moving from where it currently is in this office to a different room. And so hopefully it will be better on display and able to host more of it. For those of you who watched my 2023 video, you might have seen what my collection looked like at that time, and I'll put up a video now. But for those who haven't seen or didn't see the video a few ago, this is my new office. My wife and I moved into a new house in September, and so I've been slowly building the collection up over time, and pretty much everything in this right hand side is a Yorkshire fossil from this year. And this is the same collection a year later, and so whilst all of this stuff on the right hand side is still Yorkshire material, you might note some of the fossils are the same, so there's still the same dinosaur footprints down on the bottom, there's still the same big Litosaurus here, there's still my ichthyosaur vertebra sequence there, and some of the Grammosaurus blocks on the right there, and the little philo at the top, which was right there, quite a big deal at the time. But what you may also notice is that instead of just having a handful of shelves, I've increased the number of shelves, so we're now up to an extra shelf on each side because we've got that many fossils. And this side has added fossils to it, including some things that we found in the Cotswolds area, some nice ammonites from there, some lovely plant material from Offerton near Manchester, one of the hunts we did this year, and all of the things that are not ammonites nor vertebrate material that has started to overflow out of my Yorkshire side into my other side. So there's quite a lot of things have happened with the collection over the last year. So this video we're going to highlight some of the big things that have happened on the channel, some of the numbers, and we'll show you some of these fantastic fossils a bit more up close. So do hang around and we'll show them to you now. Just a quick rundown of numbers for the channel for those of you who care. We're just shy of 1,000 subscribers this year, not quite doubled from last year. And the reason that 1,000 is a big deal is that's the marker that YouTube uses plus viewing hours to start monetizing your channel. So if you're seeing adverts on the channel at the minute, all of the advert money is going towards YouTube. But when we hit those numbers, 1,000 subs plus a bit more viewing hours, money will start coming towards me. And I don't plan to just line my pockets with that money. All of that money will get reinvested towards the channel. So if you like the content, make sure you're subbed, make sure you're watching the videos, because that will then help me get better videography gear, prep more fossils myself, or send more material off to get prepped by some of the pros. So it'll all help out the channel in the long run. So thank you very much for those of you who are subbed, and those of you who are new and following along, please do sub and watch more videos, because it does help out and everything will get better next year. As for the videos themselves, we've got about 40 videos published, long videos, 9 shorts. Of those videos, about 30 were fossil hunts, and I bet not many people will be able to guess where about half of those videos were recorded. He says, laughing, because everyone who knows this channel at all knows that they're pretty much all at Ravenscar. And so yeah, about half the hunts this year were down at Ravenscar. It's my favorite place, but it also produces a great diversity of fossils. All in all, I think we've got hundreds of new fossils, and I mean probably 100+ pounds of new fossils as well. Most of those are still to be prepared. There's a bunch in the shed that are being prepped but are not worthy of being in the main collection in the house. And we've got, as you saw earlier, dozens of new collection worthy specimens now on display in my office. Know what you're all waiting for? It's those important specimens that I think are really interesting that we'll show off now. So how do you rate what is hundreds of specimens in a collection? And the answer is with great difficulty. So I'm not going to give them my favorite to least favorite. What I'm going to do is actually follow an approximate guide that Richard Digby posted on one of the Facebook groups when asked about what is the rarest finds in terms of things you find on the Yorkshire coast. And by no means is this perfect, nor is it exhaustive, as he even says himself, but it provides a good framework for sort of the least rare to most rare things. And we're going to kind of follow that guideline within it. Obviously, some of these are not going to be in the right order because some of the fossils in my collection are not listed. And so that's always fun. But here we go. I don't have too many of the common find the Dactylioceras and Perinoceras specimens to show off this year, mostly because I don't collect or prep them in the same way unless they're really fantastic. But I did prep this Perinoceras, and I'm hoping you can all see the quality of the preservation. I would love to claim credit because of my prep skills, but all of those spines that are preserved in the middle, they just truly make it a stunning Perinoceras. And this one has come from Ravenscar, of course. Whilst I might have a shelf of Catacelaceres, these big fat DAC relatives, this is by far the best that's been prepared so far. It's both sides, although it's a bit of a cheeky one to stick in because it was found in 2023, although it didn't get prepped until this year, so I'm going to still stick it in here as one of the best finds of 2024. And while it's not a DAC or a Perinoceras, it definitely looks a lot like them. This is actually a Zugodactylites, and it's one of the rarer DAC family relatives, and another beautiful example, including a couple of little bivalve shells, which I've managed to keep on when I prepped it myself, which is why it doesn't look quite as tidy as some of the others you'll see. And whilst there were many nice Pseudo-Lioceras examples, the best obviously is the multi-Pseudo-Lioceras bulbiense block from Ravenscar, found also in 2023, but it took me a long time to realize they weren't all Grammos, they're actually Pseudos, and Shaun Tymon did a fantastic job prepping this one. Hildes are one of my favourite ammonites, and this is a beautiful example of the genus. This is one of the Lusitanicum individuals from Saltwick Bay. Really nice preservation on it, and a good size. But between the top two, it was tough to decide because this is the other one that it's competing against. Whilst it's not as pretty as an individual ammonite, it's missing this top section. This section that's missing has been air braided out and gives it another level of sort of interest and quality. So it's kind of a close race between those two as the best one for the year. And this is a Hypoceras, the best example in the collection by far, and is a gorgeous example. Still looking for one that's a bit more complete, because you can see where my little finger is. It would have wrapped around a much bigger example as a whole, but I cannot complain at that. And one of the relatives of the Harpos, this is a beautiful Claviceras, and or Claviceras depending on your pronunciation. And you can tell them apart because of the sharpness of this ribbing. And this is another beautiful example of the Claviceras genus, and nice to be added to the collection too. And now we add something a little bit more uncommon, not necessarily because it's more uncommon as a whole, but just because it's from the lower Lias, and Paltechioceras, which is what this is, are only found in the lower Lias. So most of my hunting's done in the upper Lias, and so this for my collection is relatively rare. But if you head to Robin Hood's Bay, Boggle Hole area, you do find more of these, but another beautiful example added to the collection. Whilst Ellies themselves aren't super uncommon, this one's come off the Holderness coast, and you might notice it's got a very yellow set of Eleganticeras, and it's preserved in calcite, which is a bit unusual for the Yorkshire coast. Much more common to get this sort of calcite preservation done on the south coast. So this it's in itself, whilst not a rare ammonite, its preservation for the Yorkshire coast is fairly rare. And apparently the calcite preservation on the Holderness is much more common. But a beautiful find I had on a day out with Shaun Tymon, who's prepped this as well. A beautiful specimen. For finds that are not from Yorkshire, here is a great find of a Grammoceras that came out of the Cotswold beds earlier this year. You can see the colour, they've got a calcite preservation, and they've got sort of a nice light limestone matrix that they sit on. And so great to have one just to be able to show the difference versus the Yorkshire ones, which sit in the grey, muddy limestones and have a much darker overall appearance. Moving from the uncommon into the rare, this is a Podogrycites, only found at Ravenscar because of it's in the uppermost Lias beds, and this is a beautiful example, sadly missing a little bit by my fingers on this side, and the back is not well preserved, but that is very common for specimens from the uppermost Lias in Yorkshire. So beautiful example. Now the joke of the channels, I've been looking for Horgias all year. This is probably the pick of the Horgias. As you can tell, not a particularly nice one. The centre would be up here, and there's bits of it scattered across the entire block. So not particularly complete, but it is a pretty piece. And it does have what I think might be a little Horgie down at the bottom. But yeah, that's about as good as my Horgie has got this year. although there is one off in prep which I'm hopeful might have a centre. Since recording this on the previous haul gear, I've got a little bit of an update from Shaun Tymon, who's doing my prep at the minute. He's got me my haul gear, my find from Ravenscar on the second to last trip there this year. It has got a middle, it is beautiful, I'm very happy. And from the rare ammonites into the very rare ammonites, we have a nice-ish example of the Fislio grammoceros, only found in the upper sandy layers at Ravenscar of the uppermost lias, and very common to be not well preserved. And this is by far the best example I have, and I've got a few fails that you'll see in some of the before and after videos from this year as well. Moving away from the ammonite finds, we've had a really good year for marine reptile bones. So this is a bit of pelvis, a bit of a humerus, so the uppermost bone in an arm. We had some nice ribs that got prepped, including what turns out to have been my first tooth from the Yorkshire coast, although sadly did not prep very well. And the star of the prep material is by far and away this lovely sequence of ichthyosaur vertebra. There's a nice neural arch where my thumb is and some lovely ribs running across it. So it's a beautiful little example of mostly articulated, although disarticulated at this end, and associated ribs and a vertebrae. That being said, there are some lovely examples to still be prepped from this year. And keeping with the vertebrate material, I guess we can talk about dinosaurs. There's this lovely little dinosaur footprint on this side. You can just see there. The only dinosaur footprint I found this year that I brought home. But I did get this very nondescript, very odd chunk of bone from Saltwick Bay. The colour makes me think it came from the sandstone beds right at the very top of the first bay. And it may well be a chunk of dinosaur bone, but we can't actually tell just from this. It just can be described as bone, but it needs a bit of histology to be cut up and looked at to be able to tell whether it's dinosaur or marine reptile. My favourite finds for the year don't belong to the vertebrates though, even though I do love my vertebrates. They belong to one family of ammonites, and that's the Lithoceros. And so this is just a nice example, a little Lithoceros, but they get much rarer. And so the rare examples, like the Haughey, I've got one last addition to the Lithoceros group, and this is the Perilithoceros. This little individual was found on one of my last trips through Ravenscar. Only found in the Gramo bed, so only at Ravenscar, and gives rise to the next, also very rare, Lithoceros relative. This is an Allocolithoceros from the uppermost lias. It was found at Ravenscar. I've only seen two other pictured ever online, one of which was found by Neil Trudgill about a month ago, and incredibly rare. My favourite though from the coast is this one, not just because it's rare, but because of its appeal. How it sits in that rock is beautiful. And so this is a Lithoceros sublineatum, and it's just a beautiful example and probably my favourite find of the year so far. Thank you everyone for supporting the channel and watching this video. It's been a massive privilege to be able to be fossil hunting as much as I have and to be able to share my passion with all of you. This year has been a bumper year, not just for my finds, but also for the channel. And my wife and I have welcomed our little boy to the world, which has kept me very busy. And so whilst I've not been out on the coast or in the shed as much as I would have liked in the last sort of 3 or 4 months, that will hopefully start to change as he grows up a little bit more. And next year, I have no doubt we're going to be out on the coast a lot more. I've got a nautilus to find, a nice big Haughey, and maybe a Phylloceros. I've got big plans, so we'll see. And I hope all of you will make sure that you're coming along for the adventures, and I'll see you all in the next one.